Welcome to Craft Chocolate TV. I'm your host, Dylan Butterbaugh with Manoa Chocolate. And today's episode are going to be things that I would do differently, starting over. What would I have changed or hopefully learned from at this point? We're building a new factory right now, and so it gives me moments to reflect on the things that I've learned from the past. And there's a short list of things that would have been really, really helpful if I knew then what I know now. The first one would be to work in another chocolate company, and there's a lot of them now. When I got started in 2010, there weren't very many chocolate companies that you could work in and learn about how craft chocolate was made. That's not the case anymore. And so we did briefly have an internship program, and it was really fun for us. The people who took it, I believe, learned a lot. The problem was they were too short, and Manoa Chocolate was constantly growing and very busy to continue an internship program. But to work in another chocolate company for 6 months to a year would be invaluable to your future success. It would save you so much money in ways you wouldn't even know. And you might even realize you don't want to make chocolate or start a chocolate company, which is equally important, right? You don't want to waste a bunch of time and money realizing you're in too deep and now you have to. So things like, why you need a grease trap. You don't want to be unclogging your drains all the time. You have to have a grease trap if you're starting a chocolate company. And this is something I learned the hard way. Why it's important to strain your chocolate. You don't want radicals, or we're hairy animals. We sometimes will shed arm hair. For a while I was shaving my arms. Now it's not important in our process because we function so differently than when we were smaller. But these are the types of things that you don't even realize you don't know. Instead of just learning about how to manage people and make chocolate, there's all the little things that you will learn by working in another chocolate company. The next thing is obvious. It's start with more money than you think you need. So if you think you need $50,000, if you can get $100,000, that's significantly better, because everything will take twice as long and cost twice as much. It just seems to work that way no matter what build out we do. It also allows you to hire professionals and save a lot of time. I tried to do so much myself. In fact, the first factories, I built so much of that myself. And one of the lessons from the last factory we built was, if I were to just hire someone who knew what they were doing, it wouldn't have been so backbreaking for me. It would have happened twice as fast, and I would have recouped the money in the first months of being open. Now, I couldn't have possibly known it was going to be successful like that when we moved to that new location, but that's how it worked out. So it was one of the lessons. The hidden costs when you start a business are very real. You have to put down deposits for rent. You don't see that money until you move out. So all these little things take all your money. When I first started, I had a $15,000 revolving line of credit from the bank, and I borrowed another $15,000 from my parents. And I'd say half of it was gone before I even had anything to show for it. Not even any drywall, any construction, no machines. It was all just going in these random places, like opening an account with the electric company and putting the first month down for rent as a deposit, and then also paying the first month's rent. It just starts to go in all these little places. So that's more money is going to serve you well. Not that you should misspend it at all. You have to be super frugal and still pretend you don't have it necessarily, because it does find a way to go out. The third one is also obvious after everything that I've done for Craft Chocolate TV. I'm always talking about like scaling up. I would have started with bigger machines, and I started painfully small, building my own equipment, having these tiny little grinders that are great for doing hobby chocolate making or doing test batches, but I was trying to run a business on it, and that was not a smart way to start. And so fortunately I did a Kickstarter and got, I think we raised $19,500, and ended up being able to buy a very small tempering machine that was continuous. It was called an Aura from FBM. And then I bought a Cocoa Town, which was about a 25 kilo stone melanger. And that really started to take me out of this hole that I was in on spending all my time loading little tiny grinders that held a couple kilos. So bigger machines will make a huge difference in your success, because you would rather spend less time making chocolate and more time selling chocolate until you fill that machine's capacity. If you're spending all your time making 5 pounds of chocolate or a couple kilos of chocolate, you're not going to have time to sell it. It's going to cost too much to make. Should your customer really have to pay $25 for a chocolate bar because you are really inefficient with the equipment that you have? I don't think so. I think that we're all able to start at a scale that you can be in this $10 to $15 range, or even $8 to $15 range retail per bar, even with stone melangers that do 25 to 50 kilos, which is, I think, nice to start with. 25 kilo stone melangers, you have something like 3 of them, you can actually run a successful business that way. You're essentially buying your time back when you start with bigger machines. Now, the last one for today would be to not have partners unless you have to. And partners can bring a lot to the table, and if they do bring a really important skill set, then it's wonderful. It's just most of the time they don't work out, and there's perceived inequity in what's being contributed to the success of the business. Who's putting in more time, or who put more money in? There's who has more intellectual capital. All of this can get really messy when things get stressful and cash runs out. So those are my initial tips for what I would do if I were to start over from now. Hope this is helpful. We'll see you next time. Aloha.